Tell me what to do. Show me how to feel under your control. Everything is real. So hit me. So hit me. So hit me.
Well guys, here it is, the new F850 from BMW. It's replacing the old F800, which I've got a lot of experience on. I've ridden one quite a bit.
Oh, standing on it, bitches!
So this bike is all completely new. So one thing to get out of the way is, how does it feel compared to the F800 that it's replacing? And really, the new motor is about a mile ahead of the F800. So the motor's much better. It has a new firing order. It's a 270-degree motor, which helps it put down a lot of traction. It gives it a lot of character, and it just makes gobs of power, and it sounds real good. Definitely a major upgrade there. Off-road, which we did this morning, this bike felt amazing. It does actually feel much better than the F800 that it's replacing. And part of that just is the frame geometry is right. The suspension's actually really well sorted out for a bike straight from the factory, which is kind of rare. It's getting a little bit better on the market these days, but most bikes are undersprung for somebody who's 210 pounds, and this bike actually felt really good.
Oh, that'll buff out.
Oh, that right there?
That little guy?
It's a flesh wound. Pretty good.
Ooh, souvenir?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay. Here you go.
Thank you.
It's funny how this bike has more ground clearance than the old one, but the front suspension is so short. It really, like, it's not bad until you start pushing to the level where you start breaking bikes and you start worrying about breaking equipment to go faster.
Yep.
That's when the front end shows it's street bias. But like if you're just cruising, it's really good.
The front end still doesn't have any adjustability to it, which every other middleweight bike does have adjustable front suspension. What this bike does have is electronically adjusted rear suspension, which is done with both the valving and the preload. The whole entire bike is smaller. The overall size is smaller. The rear end is actually much more narrow now, and you're able to get your feet down a lot easier. It feels more controllable. It's not intimidating. The gas tank isn't too high in between your legs, so you know when you're off-road and you might be in a precarious situation, or you're trying to do a really tight circle or anything like that, it feels really natural and just easier to ride than the F800 was. So the front end of this bike actually lost an inch of travel while the rear gained a little bit. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so, because most people are going to be looking to go down gravel roads, do some rough two-track, some challenging Jeep trails. This bike's going to do all that really well. BMW also got the electronic ride-by-wire correct on this bike, I feel anyway. It starts out, it gives you soft, nice, smooth inputs off-road, and then as you start to get more aggressive, it actually makes more aggressive inputs with you. And that's something that it adapts to what you're doing with it, and it feels really natural. Other bikes that are ride-by-wire systems almost feel like there's a rubber band in between the throttle and the engine performance. This bike actually, if you start giving it a whole bunch of beans, it'll give them to you because it'll say, oh, this guy's asking for a lot. But then when you're going slow and you're trying to do your off-road techniques and you're in slow speed stuff and you're only asking for a little bit, its on-off throttle is actually very good. It's smooth. There's no jerkiness to it. And for the people that want to know how this bike handles on-road, we did a lot of on-road riding with this bike today. It never It never bounced on me. It never felt like it was out of control, or like maybe the suspension was too tall, or that 21-inch front tire performed great. The brakes on this bike are really grabby. That's got a good initial bite on it. There's not too many shortcomings when it comes to the on-road stuff with this bike. And these bikes that we're riding come with a quick shifter on them, and that is both clutchless up and down shifts. Now, what's nice about that is when you're trying to bank downshifts, you can actually do it off-road as well. So maybe you come into a turn a little bit too hot, you're trying to run your brakes and focus on getting the turn done. You can just put your foot on the shifter and actually get your downshifts done without having to worry about the clutch, matching revs. The bike is never unsettled when you come into a turn and you hit those downshifts. So this bike actually can help you perform better when you make a mistake, or maybe you're just a little too overwhelmed with some of the off-road riding you're doing. You need to get from second down in the first. You can just ask it to do that and it'll do it. And you don't have to worry about what your engine speeds are. It'll blip the throttle for you. It keeps it from stalling. Okay, so getting into the competition, where does this bike like line itself up? This is going to be probably one of the better middleweight bikes out there. I'm really partial to a few of them, but this bike is easier to ride than almost all of them. Actually, it is. This bike is easier to ride off-road than all the other middleweight adventure bikes. On-road, I think it's better than the Africa Twin. Off-road, I don't think it's better than the Africa Twin when it comes to pushing it really hard off-road. That being said, this bike actually is going to feel better for a lot of people and easier to ride because it's not as tall and it doesn't feel as intimidating as say the Africa Twin does. Does it feel as good as a KTM 1090 on the road? The KTM 1090 is pretty impressive on road. It's got a lot more motor.
I can't get over how planted this KTM feels. This thing is amazing on the road. Why doesn't anybody ever talk about how good it is?
But off-road, this bike's a lot easier to ride than a KTM 1090. It doesn't have all that suspension travel that the 1090 has. But for the normal stuff that us regular adventure riders might be doing, it does feel better. And that's probably the big takeaway for this bike, is it's actually easier to ride than a lot of the more sport-focused adventure bikes. So if you find yourself like trying to figure out what bike you want, maybe you got to ask yourself, what are you going to do with your motorcycle? If you want to ride really gnarly off-road stuff, yeah, go maybe get something that's really hard to ride, takes a lot of skill. This bike, though, is an easy bike to ride that you can grow with. You can push yourself on this bike. You can carry a bunch of luggage with it. It's super easy to ride. And I think that this bike's going to be good for adventure motorcycling because it's going to get more people riding. As opposed to, you know, a bike that performs on paper really well, this bike performs for people really well. I don't know. Maybe that's it. I'm tired.
Looks good. I just need you to back up a little bit further. Back up a little bit further. Keep going. Just back up a little. You almost made it.
Is that good?
Hey everyone, my name is Rennie Skaysbrook from Psycho News. Now I'm good at two things in life, riding motorbikes and drinking beer. And when I'm not out here ripping around on two wheels, I'm enjoying a tall frosty Foster's, Australian for beer.
Here you beat it. Oh no!
There's genuine panic.
Oh my god, yeah. You felt me grab real good. No! I got one, but I just missed him.
2 in a row, huh?
What is it? Every time you pass me, you blow the next corner.
Nice saves, man.
That was interesting. God damn it, 2 in a row. Damn it. This is not ideal. Are you cold?
Yeah.
I thought you liked your vented gear and stuff. Yeah.
Off road.
Oh, it must have been so cold for you. That's great. Love it.
My little pinkies.
Well, my boots are full of water too, so that doesn't help.
My feet are frozen solid.
It just blocks.
it's just it's a lot to talk about this bike. If there's anything you guys want to know about this bike that I didn't answer in this video, just comment below and I'll get back to you. I always do. So don't forget to do that.